Hello there. It's
Love.
Bahone, and this is the Boomer Beat. And it gives me great pleasure today to talk to someone that I have something in common with. And it is really interesting because we actually connected on LinkedIn
Mhm.
when he discovered that I was an Ohio University graduate because he too is an Ohio University graduate. So go
Go
Bob.
Bobcats.
All right. So welcome to the Boomer Beat, Todd Calamita. How are you, Todd?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for having me today. I enjoyed our conversation the other day, and I was real excited when you invited me to speak with you on the podcast. This is great what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So today we're going to be talking about how to build your nest egg and basically the ABCs of retirement planning. But before we do that, since I did mention that we're both OU grads, when were you there and what did you study?
Oh gosh. Well, I graduated there in '93, so a while ago now. I did try to get back pretty often. It's after having kids and family, it's a little bit harder to get back. So I hate to admit it. It's been 8 or 10 years since I've been back, but I'm anxious to get there back again because it's such a beautiful campus. I mean, such a beautiful place to be. But I studied finance there, business, international business, and finance. It was a phenomenal program, and then I went on after that to get my MBA at Weatherhead School of Management in Cleveland. So I have a background in finance and business, and that helps quite a bit for what we do.
Did you know when you were at OU that this is the path you wanted to take, or were you thinking about venturing off into another direction? Because oftentimes it happens. We think we want to do one thing, and then we get out into the world, and then all of a sudden another opportunity comes up.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. I don't know if I knew exactly that this is what I wanted to do. I also had an interest in real estate development, or real estate investing. But when I think I was 12, my dad took me to a financial advisor at the time, and I had a landscaping business, and I saved up some money from the business, and he took me to a financial advisor because I had this money to invest. I'll never forget. He set me down. And this was
At
back in
12
the
years
80s.
old?
12, right? 12. So so a little entrepreneur there early on, but I went to the advisor and I had some money invested. This was the 80s, so interest rates were like 12%. He said if you put $666 away, you'll get $1,000 back. And I said, I'll take 4 of those. That sounds like a great deal to me. I don't have to go out and cut grass all day. So that was like, I share that story because that was my first entree into what it means to have your money work for you, as opposed to, you just working on that kind of hamster wheel. And so from that point on, it was always in the back of my head that, boy, this seems really intriguing. Now, I truly didn't know like what they exactly did at the time, but I thought, well, they could turn $666 into 1,000. Maybe it's worth pursuing. So that's the magic of compounding, right? Right there, it's a really simple example.
All right, that is amazing. And, that is a lesson for parents. I mean, if your children are or have that entrepreneurial spirit, guide them through the process. I think kudos to your father for doing that. And I've tried to, do that with my own grandson so that he understands the concept of, building a business, understanding that it takes money to make money, but, all of the mechanics that you're now sharing. So, talking about building your wealth, and I mean, I have to ask this question because it's probably a crazy question. People are going to say, well, you should start, like now.
Mhm.
But is there a really good time that's better to start with building your financial wealth?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, earlier is always better. That's kind of the easy, obvious answer, because the more your money has time to compound, the better. Now, that's not always possible, but like what I like to say, and especially when I used to go back and talk to Ohio University students, so I go back there, speak to a lot of students, and to me, that's a really opportune time to be thinking about it, because when you're in college, maybe you accumulated some debt, you barely have enough to live on. I don't know about you, but I was living on ramen and some turkey sandwiches. But when I got out of school, so I was used to living really well below my means and very minimal, right? And what I see people do, they get out of school And then, guess what the first thing they do when they get a job? I take a guess, just what do they go out and buy that gets them from point A to point B?
Okay, so let's see. When I got a job, the first thing that I had to buy was a car.
Exactly.
Is that it?
Exactly. And now there's different types of cars you can buy. I'll never forget, I was talking to this person that just graduated. I wish I got a hold of them ahead of time. I was talking to a conference, and I said, hey, who bought a car? They were just out of school, and a few people raised their hands. And I think I said, well, so what did everybody buy? And someone yelled out, I bought this BMW. And it turns out it was this $70,000 BMW, and I about fell off my chair, right?
Wow.
That's an extreme example, right? But you think about how much you put into cars, right? My belief is I always buy used cars. I mean, that's it. You can take that difference, you can save it, and so that's the best time to do it because I say if you get used to a BMW, you're not going back to a Honda, right? So it just doesn't happen that way. So you build that. That's an integral time to do that. And I say Honda because that's what I like to drive. So
okay.
So that's a good time to do it, right? Or another time is you get a pay raise, right? That's an easy way to kind of continue to build that up. You start small, you're used to living on what you have, and then you incrementally build up because you can't always do it overnight, right? So take those small steps like that.
Well, let's talk about those of us who are at a certain age and for whatever reason, had to tap into the 401k or had to close the 401k out and are at the point where now we are so close to retirement, but we may not have enough money to live into retirement. So what do you say to those people? How can they correct, or is there a correction to those financial mistakes they may have made, 10, 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah. It's never too late. Obviously it's more challenging at that point. Right. And I think you have to weigh, money now versus money later. Right. And I think as Americans in particular, we live in the now, we live in the present. It's hard for us to think 20 or 30 years in the future, which is why the savings rate is, one of the reasons the savings rate is so low in the United States. So, it's kind of that fast forward of, what happens when you're 70, 75, 80, right? Sometimes it's that, kind of that shock to say, okay, I'm not going to have enough for later if I can't save now. And that, and chances are this is your peak earning years. This is the time that you can make choices because you have income coming in. So even if it's, like I say, I always say start small. Even if it's 1 or 2% of what you're bringing in, you start somewhere. I think thankfully, you have Social Security, right? People rely on Social Security. Now you look at what maybe one thing to do is I'd encourage people to pull up their Social Security statement. You go to ssa.gov and see what you will get in Social Security, and then look at that. Because if it's, $1,000 or $1,500 a month, that may not be enough to live off of. So then you start to work backwards and say, okay, well, how much more do I need in addition to that? And then I think the other thing you look at is you consider the possibility of working to 70 because you get more from Social Security at 70 than you do at 66. And it's a really difficult to turn down that money at, 62. You start taking at 62, but it'll be much reduced. So, that's one thing you can actionable do is work longer, not draw on Social Security earlier, so that you have those extra years to accumulate towards your retirement years when maybe you can't work or you can't work as many hours. You can't get that same job you might have gotten when you were younger.
Okay, so my next question is a two-parter. Mm-hmm. Number one, what is a financial advisor? What do they do? And number two, does everyone need one?
Yeah. So, I think the best analogy I heard for a financial advisor is it's like a doctor, right? So you think of, I think health is one of the most important things in your life. And you go to a doctor, you take care of yourself, you do your regular checkups, and money's not far behind. And I don't mean money in the sense of, hey, you go out and lavishly spend or spend beyond your means, or that money is going to necessarily make you happy. There's plenty of studies, we can go into that, where, you get to a certain point with money and, it doesn't buy any more happiness. I think we all, have heard that before. So, it's just as important, your financial health, as far as in terms of the, coming in a close second behind your personal health, because if you don't have that financial health, a lot of times that's intertwined with your personal health. I mean, you probably know with people that it's one, if at a minimum, it provides stress, and stress, that has all kinds of repercussions. So, having a financial advisor, I think it's important for everybody to have a financial advisor. Now, and I say that because there's also different kind of spectrums of how you can engage and work with a financial advisor. So, but you need that guidance, and most people cannot do it on their own. It's like if you played sports, or, or were in, a musical instrument or acting, you have a coach, and a financial advisor sort of acts as your coach to help guide you and help hold you accountable, because most people aren't hard to be accountable, especially when it comes to money, because it's easy to spend in the now, and you're not saved for the future.
So how do we know if we've got a good financial advisor? What are we looking for? Because we've all heard the stories about those financial advisors who run off with all the money, and then people become destitute. So what should we be looking for?
Yeah, I think there's a couple good things and there's, I don't know what the number is, but yeah, there's probably 200,000 plus advisors out there, and it's tough. I mean, I would acknowledge it's tough to sort through and figure out which one's the right one. Is there ulterior motives? Are they trying to sell you a product so they can line their wallets with commissions? So I think one of the things you can do to help sort of narrow it down is there's a designation called Certified Financial Planner, and you can look that up, and there's certified financial planners all around the country. It's a designation that, it takes most people a couple of years to go through and get that designation. It's very comprehensive. It covers investments, it covers estate planning, it covers insurance, it covers retirement planning, tax planning. So I say that because, if somebody's passed that exam, and I think the last I heard, maybe 50% of the people that take that exam pass it. So it's very, very rigorous. I think when I took it, it was a 2-day exam. I can't remember what it is now, if it's a 1-day exam or not. But those people have a baseline, and there's a certain code of ethics that you that you take an oath to uphold when you did get that designation. So that's a great place to start, is with somebody that has that designation.
All right. So you are a certified financial planner, and you also are a certified divorce financial analyst. And I really need to ask you about that. So before I do, let me ask this question. So I'm just using myself as an example. I make less than $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a 401k. It's not really doing all that because I really don't have a lot of money to put in the 401k.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need a financial advisor? Can I afford to have a financial advisor? Because you said everyone should have one.
Right.
Is there a cutoff?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I think that's what a lot of people, naturally you're going to go to, right? Is that, can I afford it because I only have X, right? And there is a point where you have to look at the financial advisors out there, because they serve different types of people, and people in different stages of their life. So where one might not be a match for one person, another one might be. So one example would be, in addition to the certified financial planner designation to look for, I also encourage people to look for what are called fee-only financial advisors. So they don't accept commissions. There's no hidden fees. They have to disclose exactly what they're getting compensated, because a lot of times, and I hate to say it, but advisors will sell people certain products, and take commissions, or just to get those commissions, and it's really a sad situation. And unfortunately, a lot of times they'll do that with people that say, well, I can't afford an advisor. Well, you might be paying for it regardless, even though you quote can't afford it. But the one of the things you can look for is some advisors will charge by the hour. So it's like a checkup. You go in, you say, hey, I want to get a checkup once a year. Here's my situation. It's pretty straightforward, but I want to be held accountable, right? So there's some advisors that will, work on, hey, X hours per month or X hours per year. And a lot of times what they'll do is, a lot of times they'll save you, more than it's costing you to work with them.
Oh, okay. That's good information to know, because I think that there is a misconception out there that you have to have a certain amount of wealth in order to get the help from a financial wealth planner. I think that word wealth is what throws people off, or at least some people. All right, so you're a certified divorce analyst, a financial analyst. Okay, I need to know what that means, just in case, I'm thinking about going down that road, which I'm not, of course. But what does that mean, and what do you do for the divorced people out here?
Well, I guess the first thing I want to say for anybody that is going through a divorce, contemplating divorce, it's a very emotional time, and say, I don't know if tragic's the right word, but it tragic for many people going through it. Sometimes they're blindsided. It comes along unexpectedly, and a divorce involves, most cases, money, and money is emotional. Money carries a lot of emotion with it, and to go into something like that and not have an advocate on your side to help you navigate that, navigate the emotions and the finances that go with it, can be very trying. And I see a lot of people come out on the other end where they just wanted to get through it. They just wanted to get the other end. They want to get it over with. But unfortunately, it ended up hurting them financially, in the sense that they didn't get what was rightfully theirs, or that they was entitled to, or in many cases, the assets weren't split appropriately. I think some of the most, I guess, the natural reaction for a lot of people is, I'm going to get an attorney if I'm going through divorce, and it's fine that you probably need them at some stage, but they're not trained in finances, or let alone want to kind of understand the emotion behind it. And as a certified divorce financial analyst, you're trained certainly to look at the financial side. What we do, we really carry the emotional burden of our clients' finances. And when it comes to divorce, there's nothing more emotional than that. So in addition to the financial side, we believe you have to help the client through the emotional aspect of it when it comes to divorce. And I'll give you an example. You mentioned 401k earlier. A lot of people think, well, I have this 401k and then I have this bank account over here, and I'm going to take the 401k and my spouse is going to take this bank account. Well, what a lot of people forget is that if you want to take money out of a 401k, you have to pay taxes on it. So if you have $100,000 in the 401k, after taxes, it might only be $70,000. So if you say, oh, I got $70,000 over here, or I have $100,000 in the bank, and then you go and take the 401k, well, you just got 30% less and you didn't even know it, right? And then also, what if you're not 59 and a half is when you could take money out of an IRA account and not pay taxes on it. Well, let's say you need money now and you take the 401k. Well, let alone you're getting less just from the get-go, and you're paying a 10% penalty on that money too. So now you're only down to 60 cents on the dollar versus what you thought you were getting.
But let me ask this question, Todd. Can you, if you are in a divorce situation, can you ask for half of the 401k or all of the 401k and just leave it there? Or can you roll it over into something else as opposed to just pulling the money out?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great question. And I think, you hit on something that I don't think a lot of people realize, that is that when you split up a 401k, there's a legal document that goes with it. And it's one of the rare times where as a divorcing spouse, you could take that and put that into your own name into an IRA account. So that's usually the easiest way to do that. So that you avoid those taxes. And that is critical. You have to do that. And I think that's one of the other, aspects of going through divorce. You go to the attorney, they give you this document, and then you're on your way. Well, people don't know what to do with that document. I mean, are people changing? Is your ex-spouse still the beneficiary on your account and you don't know it? How do you get the money in your name from being a joint account or being in your spouse's name? It could be overwhelming. And to have again, I go back to having an advocate, someone that knows the ins and outs of how to get you through that and get you through, leaving you in a better place than you would have been if you didn't have somebody on your side. And you really need a team. I say that the certified divorce financialist, the attorney, therapist, coach, a lot of times you need a realtor or mortgage person. So you really need a team around you to come out, to make it it's never going to be painless, right? I mean, let's face it, it's not going to be painless, but to come out a little bit better, kind of give every advantage to yourself that you can going through something like that.
And, it's interesting. I wish I had known that from my first divorce, because my ex managed to hide a lot of assets that I didn't even know existed. But I didn't know at the time. I mean, I just assumed, hey, I got one of the greatest lawyers. I know he's going to handle it. But no, it was much more than that. So thank you for sharing that. And I really do hope that people who are experiencing something like that will take heed to what you said. All right. So when you and I met last week to discuss my situation, or my, not mine, but you know what I mean, my husband and my situation, you talked about 4 things that we should consider when it comes to understanding where we want to see ourselves into retirement. Can you go over those? You talked about the cash flow, the tax planning, the estate. Can you go over those with us, please?
Sure. And let me I want to include something else in that we didn't specifically talk about, but you have, I call it financial peace side, and that's the cash flow management, which we talked about. So that's money for now, money for later. There's tax planning, so making sure that you keep what's rightfully yours and kind of give as little to the government as possible. So that's the tax planning. I mean, in the legal way, right? Of course. And then the investment positioning. So we talked a little bit about investments. There are all different types of investments out there. When you look at them, it's just overwhelming. So the investment position is critical because that aligns what you're investing in with your life, right? You hear a lot of gurus out there talking about this stock or that, but they have no idea who you are or what your risk level is, what your goals are, how long it is until you actually need the money. So that investment positioning is critical. The estate preservation, that's also how are we gonna preserve your estate for later in life, and then also for your heirs if something would happen to you. Do you have the proper estate planning documents in place? Do you have this proper beneficiary designations in place? Do you have the proper insurance in place? And I'll say something quickly about insurance, not to get sidetracked, but a lot of times insurance is, quote, sold, but not really part of a coordinated plan. And I see it all the time. People come to me who've been, sold something 20 years ago and they never heard from the person before. So and
it has no value.
And it has no value. It's really sad. Yeah. But those 4 pieces, I think we're talking about the financial, but like we talked before with divorce, there is this emotional side to money, and it comes into play in a few different areas. We call it restoring order and lifestyle objectives. So restoring order in those, if there's something out of order in those financial elements, that it's a lot of stress, like we talked about before. And that can also, if you think of it as a circle, kind of they all go together, the financial, the restoring order. If something's out of order in your finances, then this third piece, your lifestyle objectives. So what you want to accomplish in life, what are your goals, whether they're tangible or just having more freedom in your life. So those all work together. So you really have to not only address the financial side, but you need to address that emotional side and really what you want to have in your life. I mean, people it's sad. And I think we talked about this a little bit, is people retire and they sort of lose purpose. They were working 30 or 40 years in a career and they're lost because they haven't really set, what's my life going to look like now? What am I going to do when I wake up in the morning? What's going to keep me motivated? And for us, that's real important to work with people on that. So it's really those three areas that go together: lifestyle, making sure you restore order with what, everybody has something out of order. I don't care if they don't, they're lying. And then the financial
That's the
side of
truth.
it, right? And, and the financial plays in with all of those. So.
All right, that is very true. All right, so the few minutes that we do have left here, I do want to talk to you a little bit about the book you wrote. Tell me what was the concept behind it and where can people find it?
Yeah, the book's Plan Smart, and it's on Amazon. I guess the idea came from I have a 13-year-old son and a 7-year-old, and I just I personally wanted to write a book. I thought there's a lot of things I want to share, and there's only a certain number of people that I can work with personally, but with a book, you can get that out to a lot more people. And I also really, the inspiration was I wanted my kids to have something to, read, something to look on and guide them, because a lot of the story I shared with you about when I was 12 and invested that money, right? That's something that I held, a long time that really guided me in making decisions going forward, and to be able to instill those lessons, and compile them in a way that, that you could tell them as a story. We sit around the table and I'll share some of those stories with the kids, and they love it. And it's just a great conversation. And I know they're learning something for their life too. So that was the big inspiration around it. I never thought I was going to be a, top 10 on the, on the New York Times bestseller list, but, it was something that I gave to my clients. I asked them to share that with their kids or grandchildren, because there's a lot of excellent points in there for all ages, but I think there's a lot in there for people, 20, 30 somethings and teenagers as well, that they can grasp a lot from.
All right, awesome. And one final thing here, one final note. If someone is interested in learning more about their own financial situation and potentially working with you in order to, get their financial house in order, how can they reach you?
Yeah, they can. The best way to reach me is to go to my website, calamidawealth.com. So my name's up there, and then you add wealth. So calamidawealth.com, and we have a Get Started Now page. Tells you a little bit about us, and then you could contact us that way, or connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook, Todd Calamita CFP on Facebook, and then LinkedIn, Todd Calamita, so you can follow us. We try to put out a lot of informational articles and posts and videos on LinkedIn and social media, because it's just to bring awareness. It's so just like you're doing, Bev. I commend you for what you're doing in terms of awareness that you're bringing to people's finances.
Well, I believe it is important because I think so many of us, especially in the African American community, don't have the information. So, one of the things I hope to do is to be able to disseminate it. Once you have the information, it's on you. Now, I can't make you go to the financial wealth advisor. What is that old saying? You can lead the horse to water. You know the deal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, fellow Bobcat, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. And the other thing, too, is that we're both in North Carolina. So
right.
You're at the top of the state, and I'm kind of like in the middle. So here we got that going on, too.
Absolutely. All right. There's a lot of Bobcats down here.
When April comes around, 2022, I'd love to have you back as a part of Financial Literacy Month, so we can talk more about building financial wealth and moving into retirement. Todd, thank you again. And well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Boomer Beat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Those of you who tuned in on Facebook, and those of you who will see this at a later time. Remember this: you have gifts to give the world. So find your voice and prosper, and stay empowered along your journey.
Thank you, Bev.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Good news you can use with Deborah Horn, yeah. She got the good news you can use. Good news you can use for your love.